Allison had wanted to die for about 10 years. The doctors didn't think she had long to live. She was in a wheelchair full-time. She had spina bifida, hydrocephalus and emphysema. She said, when the pain is at its worst, I can't move or think or speak. And she even tried to take her own life. Now, Allison isn't a lone case, and when people say that suffering is an evil, that is true. Suffering and death are signs that something has gone wrong in our world. Jesus himself wept and raged against them. Suffering demands a response. How can we have compassion? How can we love those in pain? Some people think that the way forward is to introduce assisted suicide, or they call it assisted dying, as a euphemism. It sounds so compassionate. Don't let people suffer. But 57% of people in the UK don't actually know what assisted suicide is. And we believe that when you dig deeper, you can see that introducing it would be a mistake. Assisted suicide is not the withholding of treatment. Every patient is entitled to refuse medical treatment and to go on to palliative care. Assisted suicide means giving a patient lethal drugs which would actively end their life. Now, advocates for assisted suicide normally say one of three things. It provides dignity, it reduces suffering, and it gives us back control. Many people are afraid of dying without dignity, with their capacity in mind or body in decline. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche put it like this: I want to die proudly when it is no longer possible to live proudly. But as Christians, we don't believe that anyone's worth or value is determined by their body or their mind, what they can no longer do. We believe that everyone has a dignity which is innate and inherent and infinite, made in the image of God simply by being human. Others worry about suffering, perhaps even more than they do about dying. And we all want to reduce suffering. And as of 2022, palliative care is now a legal right throughout England and Wales. And in the vast majority of cases, death can be dignified and pain can be managed. But we don't believe in actively ending life. When Elijah asked God to let him die, God relieved his suffering and gave him food and water and rest. He didn't just let him die. The doctor and Christian ethicist John Wyatt says, biblical thought always draws a distinction between removing suffering and removing the sufferer. And the third reason is to take back control at a time of life when it feels like we are losing it. The actor Sir Patrick Stewart once said, "We have no control over how we arrive in the world, but at the end of life we should have control over how we leave it." Well, the Christian worldview has a different answer. The prophet Jeremiah declared, "I know, O Lord, that a man's life is not his own. What we do with our bodies matters." Christians believe that we have been bought at a price. But even for those of no faith, this point matters. No one ever has complete control. No man is an island. Our actions have repercussions for others. And assisted suicide would not be safe for many people. They would not feel in control. Its introduction undermines regular suicide prevention efforts. Not a single UK disability group has come out in support of it. And many would feel under pressure to take their own lives. In Oregon in 2020, 53% of those who received lethal medication were concerned about being a burden on their friends, families, or caregivers. Now, advocates typically put forward bills with safeguards, and in the bills under discussion in Jersey, the Isle of Man and Scotland, the suggestion is that the patient should be terminally ill, with unbearable pain and less than 6 months still to live. But exceptional cases make bad laws, precisely because they are exceptional, and safeguards are swiftly eroded. So take Canada. Canada introduced assisted suicide with safeguards in 2016. Already, legislation is being considered which would include children, and there are plans to expand it to include those with mental illness in 2024. Army veterans have been offered it for suffering with PTSD. A Paralympian was offered it when she couldn't get a stair lift installed in her home. 28% of Canadians now believe that homelessness is an appropriate reason for assisted suicide. It is cheaper for the Canadian state to kill its own citizens than to provide them with the social care they need. We don't believe in assisted suicide. We believe in a story which recognises human dignity, which preserves life, and which protects everyone, particularly those who are vulnerable. Allison had wanted to die for about 10 years. But with the support of friends, she dedicated years to helping children with disabilities in India, and actually became a campaigner against assisted suicide. She commented, "Had euthanasia or assisted suicide been legal, I would have missed the best years of my life, and no one would ever have known that the future held such good times, and that the doctors were wrong in thinking I didn't have long to live." Allison believed in life, and at CARE, we hope that you do too.